What is up, Pats Nation? It is Patriots Global here with another video, and today we are going to be breaking down the Patriots running back core, and we're going to be talking about who has the best chance at making the roster. So to start off, I have Brandon Bolden, who is 28, 5'11", 220 pounds. I personally am actually one of the very few people who wishes the Pats would use Bolden as more than just a special teams ace. I mean, honestly, Bolden just never gets the chance to really show his running ability. Yes, he got it a little bit this past season, but even then, he just never gets the chance to show what he's really got. And not only can Bolden pick up some extra yardage, but he actually has some receiving ability. If anybody remembers 2015 when the Pats played the Broncos, Brady actually threw a long ball to Bolden for what I believe was a 68-yard touchdown. Now, I'm not saying he's an elite receiver or anything, but he has the ability to do it. And during that 68-yard touchdown in 2015, he actually beat like 3 defensive players, which is just mind-blowing. Now, this is actually something I've been thinking for a while, but I think that he could actually be a good power back, but I guess Bill doesn't think so. I mean, I definitely can agree that we have not seen enough of him to say exactly what he could/should be, but from what we saw last year, he could without a doubt be a power back. The Patriots have been lacking that ever since Blunt left, so I don't know why they don't just try to see what he has, but it's whatever. In 2017, the Pats signed Bolden to a 1-year deal, then cut him for the 53-man roster cutdowns, and then re-signed him a few days later. This offseason, the Pats signed Bolden to another 1-year deal, making him the first offseason move. He was signed to a $880,000 deal. Ultimately, though, the reason Bolden has stayed on the team after all of these years is because of how important he is to special teams. And although Bill built special teams even better this season, I could see him keeping Bolden for a special teams ace and a pretty decent backup running back. But at the same time, the Pats do have a lot of running backs making a name for themselves, so Bolden will really need to prove he deserves a spot, and not just for special teams, because the Patriots have a lot of special teams players, and they signed a lot of people, a lot of guys, I should say, who can be great on special teams, and they're younger than Bolden, so Bolden definitely will still have to fight for his roster spot. So I'm going to give Bolden a 75% chance to make the team. Next up, I have Mike Gillislee, who is 27, 5'11", 210 pounds. Gillislee has had 5 years of experience in the NFL. The Pats signed him last offseason to a 2-year, $6.4 million deal after playing with the Buffalo Bills. And I think we can all agree that he was a huge disappointment. I'm going to come out and say he straight killed it with the Bills in 2016. I actually remember when the Pats played the Bills, and I was just wishing that the Pats would somehow get him, and then offseason came, and they actually did get him. Gillislee scored 3 touchdowns in his first game with the team. That was the Kansas City game, if anyone didn't know. However, he failed to build on his encouraging opening day performance, and everything just kind of fell down for Gillislee after that. While Gillislee received double-digit carries in each of the Patriots' first 6 games, he only heard his number called a combined 25 times through the rest of the season, that being both regular season and playoffs. Mike ended the year with 104 carries for 383 yards and 5 touchdowns. He started the year off great, but after failing to be a goal line back or even picking up a yard on 4th down in the first game versus Kansas City, and he actually had more than one chance to do that, and he failed every single time. While not to mention also having no receiving ability, he went inactive for most of the season, and the Pats fans pretty much made him a meme. Now, it was said that Gillislee this offseason has actually put on some weight. I don't know how true that is or not, but that's what reports said. Honestly, though, the Pats need a power back, and Gillislee has proved that he just is not that. The Pats brought in Jeremy Hill to try to find that power back being that they tried to get from Gillislee, but just did not. The Pats not playing Gillislee most of the season and him having issues during minicamp and OTAs, cutting runs short and not showing much care isn't a good sign. But he will have training camp and possibly preseason, depending on what the Patriots do with him, to see if he's got anything new. Now, the Pats will have better blockers, so maybe we'll see a better Gillislee. Ultimately, though, the Pats are not going to keep a guy for $2 million that is just going to sit on the bench. They could trade him and get something out of him. Because of the salary cap, the little care, and him proving that he isn't much, I give Gillislee a 48% chance to make the roster. Next up, I have Jeremy Hill, who is 25, 6'1", 230 pounds. So right off the bat, you see that Hill is a taller and larger running back than Mike Gillislee. He's actually a good 2 to 3 inches taller while packing on an extra 20 pounds. Pats signed Hill, a former running back for the Bengals, to a 1-year, $1.5 million deal, so if it doesn't work out, then at least it's just a year for minimal money. I actually read an article a few weeks ago, and it said how Jeremy Hill in the first 3 years of his career put up numbers in the red zone/goal line that matches LeGarrette Blount. He was actually the only player in the NFL to put up those kind of stats. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings on Hill and how he kind of, the past year or two, has kind of downfallen. But keep in mind, he was on the Bengals. He had terrible blockers. He had a terrible offensive line. You really can't do anything with that. You cannot be a running back in the league and be outstanding when you have no one to block you whatsoever. Now, Hill by no means is a lock to make this team and undoubtedly will need to fight for this position. But from what I can tell from his posts on social media and what we've seen around camp, he seems to really genuinely want to be a Patriot. He brings that enthusiasm that yet again we saw from LeGarrette Blount. If Hill can keep up his productivity and prove that he can be a powerful power back for the Pats, then he should be able to make the 53-man roster. Ultimately, the battle is going to come down to Hill and Gillislee for that roster spot. I give Hill an 89% chance to make the team. My guy, James White, is next up on the list. He's 26, 5'10", 205 pounds, and undoubtedly is one of the most underrated players, especially for being a 4th-round pick. White should have been the Super Bowl 51 MVP if TB12 wasn't on the field being, well, TB12. Following the Super Bowl victory, White got signed to a 3-year extension worth $12 million. So he will actually be a restricted Patriot up until 2020. After that, who knows what the Patriots are going to do. Many people were skeptical about the deal, but with all the versatility he brings, I totally see why the Pats love him. He actually was graded one of the best receivers in his draft class, which is insane when he's a running back, not a wide receiver. Basically, just another way the Pats are beating the system and are getting a basically free wide receiver. He played 33.6% of New England's offensive snaps, so that is actually 383 out of the 1,139 offensive snaps the Pats took. And even though he missed both week 16 and 17 with an ankle injury and finished the regular season as the Patriots' second most productive running back with a combined 600 yards from scrimmage. White registered 43 rushing attempts during the regular season and gained 171 yards on the ground. He also caught 56 passes for 429 yards and 3 touchdowns as one of the most productive receiving backs in the NFL. White's only real, air quote, competition was actually Dion Lewis, and that honestly was only because of how extremely similar the running backs were. I personally think that James White is better at securing the ball and going for passes, but I think that Dion Lewis was ultimately a better runner, picking up more yardage. But now that Dion Lewis signed with the Titans, it just makes James White that much more important. With him being used as a running back and a key receiver, he is pretty much a lock to make the roster. No other running back can produce like White does. I give him a 99% chance to make the team. Now up, I have Rex Burkhead, who is 28, 5'10", 215 pounds. Burkhead was brought in last season on a one-year deal. Many people didn't see him becoming such a key part to this offense, including myself, actually. This offseason, Burkhead entered free agency where he definitely had a market, but luckily the Pats could sign him to a 3-year, $9.75 million contract, which was very, very important after losing Dion Lewis. He was on the field for 195 snaps on offense, which was 17.1%, and he finished the regular season with 518 yards from scrimmage, serving as an early down back. The ex-Bengal ran the football 64 times for 264 yards and caught 30 passes for 254 yards, and also found the end zone 8 times, which was second most on the Pats team. Sadly, though, Rex actually only played 10 regular season games because of him battling injuries the whole season. It definitely sucks seeing him go down as he became such an important part to the offense and he was doing so good. If Burkhead would not have gotten injured, we without a doubt would have seen a lot more production. Burkhead's hard-hitting, strong plants, and great elusiveness will help replace the production of Dion Lewis. Interesting fact, Burkhead is compared to previous Patriot Danny Woodhead. Low-key, Burkhead is one of the most important players on the Patriots, and most people forget that. If you actually look at it, he's a great runner, a good pass-catching ability, and is even a great special teamer. Let's not forget about the blocked punt versus the Broncos. With all the abilities that Burkhead brings and the new contract he got this offseason, I give Burkhead a 99% chance to make this team. Next man up is Sony Michel, who is 23, 5'11", 215 pounds. And let me just say, oh boy, was this such a surprise when the Pats picked this guy with the 31st pick in the 2018 NFL Draft. Believe it or not, Sony was actually said to be the first or second best running back in the draft, which I actually thought was pretty crazy, especially when you had Saquon Barkley. I mean, to be compared to the best running back when Saquon was in the draft, I was like, wow, that's actually pretty crazy, especially when he got picked that late. And I'm sure the Pats are actually also pretty surprised, which is probably why they grabbed him, because they were surprised that he was still available at the 31st pick. He carried the football 156 times for 1,227 yards and a career best average of 7.9 yards per run. He also set a new career high in rushing touchdowns with 16. While Michel was one of college football's most dynamic running backs due to his excellent acceleration and ability to react to the blocks in front of him, he also was frequently featured in the pass game. Michel, who appeared in all 14 of Georgia's games last season, caught 9 passes for 96 yards and 1 touchdown, and also regularly served as a pass protector in blitz pickup. Now, his NFL comparison was actually Alvin Kamara, who played for the Saints, but when I look at him, for some reason, I don't know why, but he just reminds me of a Le'Veon Bell, but really reminds me of a LaShawn McCoy type guy. That might be kind of because of his type of build a little bit, but that's just who he personally kind of reminds me of. There's definitely a lot of work being put into this young man, definitely high expectations, and we've seen that not just with fans, but we've seen that with the Patriots coaches as well. The Patriots running back coach has actually been really hard on Sony whenever he didn't run a play perfect. Michel has proven that he has catch ability. For example, the video of him catching a one-handed touchdown grab during, I believe it was minicamp. Like I said earlier, Sony was a complete shock when he got drafted that early. The Pats never draft running backs that early in the draft. Last running back to go in the first round, I believe, was in the earlier 2000s. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it was like the earlier 2000s. With what Sony has been showing through camp and college, and the Pats using a first-round pick on him, I say that he has a 97% chance to make the team. Now, the last running back we have in today's video is Ralph Webb, a guy no one really knows, so you probably have already clicked off of this video. He's 23, 5'10", 200 pounds. In 2016, he came off a career year And then Webb entered his senior season at Vanderbilt as the team's undisputed #1 offensive weapon. Sadly, though, he could not put up numbers like he did the previous year, and he dropped, becoming his worst year. Webb brings great usual blend of vision, patience, and toughness, and proved himself a durable bell cow running back that does not slow down under a heavy workload. However, Webb's lack of athleticism and inconsistent technique were also on show, which ultimately, combined with his slip in production, led to him being undrafted. The Patriots signed the undrafted free agent after the draft concluded to a 3-year contract. Something else to note about Webb is that he actually has pretty decent catchability. That's actually something that I heard a lot about through OTAs and training camp, is that this guy actually is doing well with catching the ball. So that's actually something that is making him stand out over the rest of these running backs. But he will have to show up in training camp and preseason if he wants any shot at making this team. Ultimately, though, I see Webb being a decent backup on the practice squad. I give Webb a 39% chance at actually making the 53-man roster. So that is it for today's video. I know it was a long one. I started to get a little tipsy through the video because of how much reading there was. But let me know what you guys think about this video. Did you agree with what I said? Did you not agree? Just let me know in the comments below. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, as it really means a lot and it really helps me out in life. Share this with many friends as you can possibly think of, even if they're not your friend, just share it with them. Let's expand the Patriots global family and let's get it going. That's it for today's video, though. I'll catch you in another video, Pats Nation.